Alrighty, what is quacking, everybody? So Splatoon 3 got its $450 patch. The Switch 2 just came out a couple days ago. It's been about like 4-5 days now when I'm posting this. And the Splatoon 3 feels incredible on the Switch 2. I enjoy the controller. The controller feels great. It's kind of like a placebo effect, but like it just feels a lot more snappy and better. Maybe it's because, I'm using the Splatoon 3 controller, which I've had for 3 years since the game came out, or 3 years since Splatoon 3 came out. So that controller has seen a lot of wear and tear, but having just the new controller and the new console and just everything just feels so smooth. It's not like an inherent like buff. Like I'm not just like absolutely dogging on people. Like I'm dogging on people because I'm good at the game, but I'm not dogging on people because, I got a $450 patch. But it feels really smooth. The game just feels very nice, and it's kind of like, it is what it is. Like it's locked to its normal frame rate and stuff when you're playing in matches and stuff like that. But overall, just in general, just like the controller and the console feel, it feels great. There is also some bugs with the game as well, where you can squid roll off of non-inked surfaces. So you probably saw it in earlier, and you've seen clips on Twitter. You can squid roll, and if you frame perfect do the squid roll back, you can squid roll off of the floor if it's not inked or it's the enemy's ink. So it's a pretty cool glitch, I guess. It's not very practical. There's not really any practical uses for it. And especially if you built muscle memory for squid rolling and stuff like that, you're probably not going to be hitting it and just kind of like going with the notion of like what squid roll's supposed to be doing. It just really doesn't have any like super practical means unless like you're absolutely just like destroying someone and you find a way to squid roll off something and to get to an area where you're not supposed to be. So there is that. But overall, like the Switch 2 and the controller and everything, it just feels great. It's some of it's placebo effect, obviously. Some of it's just, inherent, buffs. There's some bugs. But overall, Splatoon 3 feels absolutely fantastic on the Switch 2. Should you get a Switch 2 to just play Splatoon 3? You should only get a Switch 2 if your Switch 1 is dying. I didn't know the state of a lot of people's Switch 2s in the community, but I've seen some pictures of people saying goodbye to their Switch 1s with their exploded batteries, and I'm like, guys, how are you playing Splatoon on that thing? Like, what, like how? In what world? So, there was that. But other than that, you don't need to buy a Switch 2, and we're gonna get something a little bit more like mainstream meta. If you're an avid Switch user outside of Splatoon, and you just play your Switch religiously, I think you should get a Switch 2 if you can afford it and is within your budget. If you don't need it, or you just recently got a Switch 1 before you knew there was a Switch 2, like if you got a Switch 1 last year because you needed one because your Switch broke or whatever, then don't upgrade. If you have a good working Switch 1, you shouldn't upgrade. But I will say, after not just playing Splatoon 3, I loaded up Zelda, I loaded up Pokemon, I loaded up Smash, I loaded up different games. They all feel great, faster load times. The console feels great. Playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on the Switch 2 was absolutely insane. Like the whole, like the way the game felt, the visual, I was taken aback by the visuals, like how snappy the game was, the animations, everything. I was like, am I playing a new game? I thought I was playing a new Pokemon game because it just looked immaculate. So if you are someone who is constantly using your Switch and you've had it for a couple years, or you could have been like me, I was still on the OG Switch that I got back in 2017. And then I upgraded to an OLED, but I could have still stayed on that Switch because my Switch was still in good condition, no explosive battery, nothing like that. I could have still stuck with that Switch for up until now, and I definitely would have warranted an upgrade. But if you're rocking a Switch that is, 3-4 years old, I think it would behoove you to upgrade. I think it'd be very beneficial. You should definitely upgrade if it's within your budget and well with your time. Because I know there's a whole like, oh, well, there's only Mario Kart World and not too many launch titles. There is some, you know, third party. If you don't have Cyberpunk on your PC and you know, maybe your PC can't handle it, well, get a Switch 2 and get Cyberpunk and you can play it. But otherwise, like, yeah, get a Switch 2 because it just plays things so well. Like, you don't need Switch 2 games. Just because there is no Switch 2 games doesn't mean it wouldn't be worth it to get a Switch 2 to play Switch 1 games. Now, circling back to Splatoon, I don't think they're gonna let us use this for LANs. I hope they do. I don't think that's gonna be an issue though. I wish they would. I'm gonna bring my Switch 2 with me to Riptide and play with it. I think it's gonna be very fun to just play Mario Kart with everybody. And also, I really do want to test the local connection features with everybody. I think it'd be nice to see how connecting to people locally with the Switch 2 and playing on Splatoon 3 would feel and work. I think that'd be very interesting. But yeah, I think not. They're probably not going to let us play it at LANs unless there's like a... I think that's a very tricky situation for TOs and stuff like that. Especially at LANs, because it's just like it's easier to get Switch 1 docks and stuff like that because there's a lot of them, especially getting third-party docks as well. So there's all these different options for Switch 1 as Switch 2 just came out. So there's not that many options unless it's a bring your own dock situation and, you know, you can do that. I don't see it being feasible at LANs. Obviously for online tournaments, anything goes. Like, I host Barnacle Bash. I'm not going to be like, okay guys, you have to use your Switch 1, send in pictures. Like, that's ridiculous. People can use their Switch 2s and play Switch 1 games. That's totally fine. So it's just the LAN thing. Like, I think people are still going to have to lug around their Switch 1s, and it's going to suck, especially in future LANs when we're playing Splatoon, because like if they're not going to let us use our Switch 2s at, you know, let's say next year's Riptide, next year there's probably going to be more Switch 2 games. Like, we already know Donkey Kong is coming, Metroid Prime, Legends AZ. There's going to be more games, probably. So it's just like, all right, I don't want to bring my Switch 1. I want to play on my Switch 2 while I'm, you know, traveling as well. So there's that conundrum with TOs and, you know, packing for people. It's a whole thing that people need to consider. So unfortunately, the LAN scene is going to be a little bit awkward. I could be wrong though. TOs could be like, all right guys, if you can play on your Switch 2 as long as you bring your own dock and everything, which I would happily oblige with that. I'd bring my own dock and everything. But after seeing all the breakdowns and playing on Splatoon 3 myself on my console, it feels great. It definitely feels good. I think the controller is a little bit more responsive to a degree. I know some people are saying it's placebo and stuff, but, you know, like I said, it also could be me with my controller. My controller was old, but I definitely feel like my aim and everything is a lot more snappy and things are more responsive between the controller and the console, and things feel really good and smooth. So yeah, if you are thinking about getting a Switch 2 for general purposes, you should get it. If you're thinking about getting a Switch 2 to play Splatoon 3, you probably shouldn't do that if your Switch 1 is working fine, but if you need a new Switch, it is well worth the upgrade. Anyways, let me know how your Switch 2 stuff is going in the comments below. I will see you in the next one. Take care. Peace.